Malawi has elected former President Peter Mutharika back into office after 5 years of economic hardship under Lazarus Chakwera. With inflation above 20% for 3 consecutive years, foreign exchange shortages, food insecurity and widespread poverty, the stakes could not be higher. Mutharika campaigned on a promise of a return to proven leadership, but faces questions about whether he can restore economic stability and trust at the ripe old age of 85. To unpack Malawi's economic future under Mutharika's return, we're joined by Chief Economist and Director of Economic Research at the Strategy at Don Consultancy Group, Chifipa Mhango. Chifi, good to speak to you as always. Now, how much of this victory is about confidence in Mutharika's leadership versus a rejection of Chakwera's economic record?
Thank you very much for having us today, and good afternoon to all your listeners. Well, I think it has all been clear in terms of what has transpired in the Malawi economy under Dr. Lazarus Chakwera, and then taking a comparison with what transpired under Professor Peter Mutharika. If you remember, Hugo, exactly 3 years ago, that was 2022, almost this time of the year, I had an engagement with you, with your channel there, directly with you, in which I wrote an open letter warning President Lazarus Chakwera around the issues in terms of mismanagement of the economy from the fiscal perspective point of view, but also from the monetary policy, as well as from the industrial and the trade environment in Malawi. If you remember that discussion there, we touched very thoroughly around the issue of decisive leadership under his government, but on the issues of corruption. So I think the situation has come to hold back to him to say, President Chakwera, if you had hidden, you have taken a hit in terms of listen to the will of the people in terms of what they wanted for you to do and deliver. Surely by now you would have been re-elected. But I think the people have spoken, and I think they want a new direction in terms of how the Malawi economy should be managed.
So you speak of direction. Let's talk about Peter Mutharika and his first 100 days in office. What are the key issues that he's going to look at? What does he have to immediately address?
Well, one of the things I must be open with you is that now I was listening to his president-elect address, which he had this week, and he was kind of discouraging around the issue of 100 days in office. So I want also to maybe align with him to say, no, the issue of 100 days in office, in a way, sometimes does not work. But I think the issue is about prioritization. What is his government trying to prioritize? His government is looking at prioritizing the issue of fiscal discipline, where there's a management of expenditure from the government perspective point of view, but also prioritization of merit-based appointment in terms of his government. But also he has also emphasized the issue of a lean cabinet. If you remember, at the time he was managing the country, he only had 20 cabinet ministers, including himself and the vice president. So he is also taking a similar direction to say, no, that is how we want to manage the country from the fiscal expenditure point of view. But I think he also did touch on element of stabilization of the forex environment in Malawi, because of the issue of mismanagement of the economy from the monetary policy point of view has led to the erosion of the forex in Malawi, which has led to issues of lack of fuel, lack of food, lack of fertilizer, but also a lack of yes, those are the three items which have been led because of forex. You must remember Malawi is an importing nation. So in a way, products like fuel depend much in terms of foreign exchange reserves. And currently in Malawi, the foreign exchange reserves are sitting at below 10 days.
Okay, so obviously a difficult situation that he inherits. Now, during his previous presidency, Mutharika was credited with lowering inflation and building infrastructure. Do you think this return to proven leadership, as per his slogan, resonates economically? Is it practical?
Well, I think it's quite practical. You know, I've been highly involved in terms of dissecting the manifesto of the DPP. I think from the perspective in terms of what has been promised, it's quite feasible in terms of if there's a political will to deliver. You know, the issues of infrastructure in Malawi centers around the roads, especially in the rural areas of Malawi. You're looking at the housing, you're looking at the health, but also looking at education infrastructure. And then it also moved towards the tourism infrastructure, because these are the key enablers in the economy. But you're also looking at railroad development, but also the energy side of the economy in terms of cultivating the environment for industrial development in Malawi. So I think if the focus on that will remain very key in his administration, He's got quite a formidable team as long as they can remain focused and avoid issues of corruption. And I think the president will actually be very strong this time in terms of dealing with the issue of corruption decisively. So we've got hope in terms of his leadership going forward for the sake of Malawians.
Now, on the flip side, Chifi, he's been accused of cronyism. How much of a credibility gap does he face in regaining investor confidence?
Well, he's quite a well-educated person with a strong international exposure. He uses elements of international benchmarking in his way of decision-making process. And I think he's got an evidence-based approach in terms of leadership and how he handles issues. I think it came out very clear also in his what you can define as his speech 2 days ago. So I think realistically, I can say that from that perspective, in terms of appointment, he has assured the Malawi nation that appointment will be merit-based approach with regard to element of where he has been criticized before. But I think he has given some strong examples in terms of how he managed government. But maybe it could be that he was doing well on the point of view of appointment at cabinet level, but maybe the people under him could have been the ones to be blamed in terms of what they were doing with regard to appointments. So I think we are quite positive as a nation in terms of from his address, which he had on Friday, and then looking at going forward with regard to where he wants to take the country forward. He's a cool-headed man from the point of view of interaction, and we have seen a departure of change with regard to how he's also dealing with issues of media, which was one of the areas where he was actually accused, or his administration was accused of doing that. So I think there is hope for the country in terms of how he will take the country forward.
Chifi, I want to focus a little bit on young people who make up a significant number of Malawi's population. Peter Mutharika is 85 years old. Health issues meant that he wasn't able to conduct a complete campaign, even though he was successful. How much consideration is he going to give to young people? Is he going to be able to deliver on the needs and expectations of young people? Is he au fait with what's going on as far as the needs of young people are concerned at 85 years of age?
We always look at issues of age, but what you must remember is that age doesn't take away your brain. So I think he's taking up a leadership position, which is the president of the country. What matters more is about the team you put together to deliver in terms of your mandate. So he has promised us a merit-based approach. I think realistically, he will look at the interests of the youth with regard to even appointment. He will look at the interests of women with regard to appointment of his positions. So even though he can be at that age of 86, but I think if you had the opportunity to listen to his address, you can see that the brains are still there intact as a person from the leadership perspective point of view. The way he interacts, you can see that international experience in terms of examples he's been giving around what's happening here in South Africa, what's happening in USA, and how he brings back that element into the Malawi context. So you pick up that the man remains sharp, and I think in terms of comparison, even better than those people who are also young, who are aspiring to be the president of Malawi. So we quite positive in terms of how he assembled the team, in terms of taking the balance with regard to the needs of the economy, but also the needs of the population from the political-based point of view.
Is there an expectation that he is going to recycle the old guard, if you will, people that assisted him in coming into power, some of the old guard, some of the cabinet ministers that were in office during the time that he was in power, bearing in mind that Malawi needs to diversify beyond subsistence agriculture to create sustainable growth?
Well, if I make a comment on that, then I'll be preempting the prerogative of the president, which is for him to make a choice, an informed choice in terms of whom he wants to appoint. I think we will have to wait and see in terms of how he assembles his cabinet. But I said I will depart from his promises to say a merit-based approach. Now, a merit-based approach will mean that he will look at even the people that he had before, how was their performance when they were in cabinet, and then take a thoughtful and decisive approach towards his appointment. So I think he's got some element of reflection based on the mistakes of the last 5 years when he's in power. So he's coming in at a stronger position in the sense that it's now going to be the second time in terms of him being a president of Malawi. So he will reflect on that and see what new approaches can he bring in on the table in terms of managing the country from the point of view of the political side, but also strongly moving away with a big share of the chunk towards the economic side of Malawi. Because you must remember, the mandate of the Malawians has been based on the point of view of the economic performance of the country. That is why he's got what we can define as a strong mandate from the percentage point of view across all the regions of Malawi. So people have put a trust in him in terms of performance on the economic side of things, which means that his cabinet must be people that understand the economy and how the whole element interlinks each other in terms of setting an integrated platform towards achieving all the elements that he has put together with his vision, and also make sure all the objectives are actually fulfilled based on his promises.
So there's obviously an urgent need to be able for President Mutharika to be able to balance humanitarian relief and long-term development plans, because a significant number of Malawians face hunger based on obviously what's happening with climate change and droughts and so on.
Yes, I think it's quite important that is also addressed. One of the challenges we've had in Malawi is the issue of the cyclones, which have affected several districts in the southern part of Malawi and also led to food shortages. So the question that one has to do there is about scenario planning in effective management of government. So you can't go in there without understanding what are the consequences that Malawi had before when you got issues of disaster management from the food perspective point of view. So I think a strong team will actually give him a much better position to say what kind of scenario planning can we have in the situation whereby much as we can articulate our policies, but then if we are hit by a situation like a cyclone Fred, how do we react to that? So better planning is very key. In most global economies, what transpired during COVID, I think it's also good lesson to learn in terms of how countries manage themselves from the point of view of disaster management, which was created by COVID. So I think a similar approach has to take effect in terms of how the Malawi economy will be managed with element of drought, for instance, with element of cyclones, which normally occur. So food reserves, the process of engagement on that front, I think will be one of the key areas in terms of being ready for disasters like that.
Now, finally, Chifi, what role can regional trade within SADC and the AFCTA play in lifting Malawi's economy?
Well, Malawi is an aggregator-based economy, but I think there's an opportunity for Malawi to be more advanced in the what we can define as value addition. If you look at Malawi from the product-based point of view, it's got a strong base in terms of maize, beans, for instance, fruits, tomatoes. But what you find that all these are sometimes are consumed as raw material. So if you can then say, okay, let's develop industries in Malawi and incentivize them in such a way that you create special economic zones whereby maize can be turned into breakfast cereals, beans can be turned into baked beans, fruits can be turned into jams or juices, tomatoes can be turned into tomato sauces. I mean, that is an area where Malawi has to start now focusing on. And if you do that, you find that instead of importing or being an importing economy, then you start now changing the dynamics towards the trade position of Malawi to become more a positive element in terms of the net trade of Malawi. Because currently the net trade of Malawi has been negative for years. So the only way to do that is to create value addition in the Malawian economy from the point of view of utilizing the current base, which is the agricultural products, to the value added products in the industrial sector of Malawi. That is also very key. Mining industry only contributes about 1%, but Malawi has got minerals like gold, it's got minerals like uranium, so many other minerals in Malawi. So there is need for a push in terms of getting the right investors in the mining sector of Malawi to push the GDP contribution of mining sector from 1% to at least 20%, and creating a conducive environment such a way that the revenue that is actually done from the mining sector remains in the Malawian economy, are not always taken out of the country, because forex reserves in Malawi are very key for the point of view of getting the right products in the economy, such as fuel, which I mentioned earlier. So I think realistically, that is how you can transform the Malawi economy. But the right people being appointed, it becomes very key in terms of delivering on this mandate.
Chifi, I cannot end without talking about Malawi rice, because that's one of the products that you didn't talk about, and it's world famous. Then there's also the issue of Malawi gold. So informally for a long time, dacha or cannabis from Malawi has been talked about. Do these, I suppose, cannabis more importantly, does that not offer an opportunity for the Malawi economy to, I suppose, to earn foreign currency?
Well, you are quite right. I think rice, my own parents are very good rice farmers in the northern district of Malawi called Karonga. It's called Kirobero rice. It's quite a similar kind of rice, which is more like the same level as jasmine rice, which is mostly done in most restaurants internationally. So I think Malawi has got an opportunity to also export that, create an environment where there's more farms which are supported by government in terms of growing more, expanding the production base of rice in Malawi. But also, one can talk about the issue of the dacha from the point of view of better use of it. So, for example, the medicinal part of it, I think in Malawi can offer a strong opportunity. There have been some laws and regulations which have been put in place in terms of creating that industry in Malawi for medicinal purposes. But I think more can be done in terms of encouraging the environment to be regularized in a better way, because currently it remains an illegal product in terms of how it's done in Malawi. But I think there's opportunity for that. But I think I can also go in terms of the Lake Malawi. I think it has also been underutilized for fish production, because it's one of the largest lake in Africa when it comes to fresh water. The kind of water where you can go in there and drink it because it's not salty at all. And also across the nation of Malawi, most of the land there is arable land, which means that you can grow any kind of products. The country is well endowed with so many rivers, which are also freshwater rivers, which means that irrigation farming can actually be a key element in terms of expanding the production base of Malawi from agriculture to the industrial base of the Malawi economy. So I think opportunities for Malawi perspective are quite clear. It's about having a leader that is visionary, a leader that is decisive to ensure that the things that have been put on paper are delivered practically in action.
Chifipa Mhango, Chief Economist and Director of Economic Research and Strategy at Don Consultancy Group, speaking to us about the next term of Peter Mutharika as the 85-year-old takes over the reins as President of Malawi.